I never expected to hear his name again. Not directly, not like this. At first, it was just another headline, another rumor floating around, exaggerated like everything else. But this time, it felt different because it wasn't about speculation anymore. It was about him. And when someone like he's involved, things don't stay quiet for long. I didn't see the full interview. I couldn't. I only saw clips, short moments. But sometimes a few seconds are enough to understand everything. He didn't look angry. That's what surprised me the most. No shouting, no blame, no public outrage, just disappointment. The kind that doesn't need words, the kind that feels heavier than anger ever could. And that's when it hit me harder than anything before. Because anger can be defended against. You can argue with it, you can fight it, but disappointment, there's no defense for that. It just sits there, silent and undeniable. People expected a reaction, a strong one, something dramatic, but instead he stayed calm, too calm, and sometimes that's worse. Because when someone chooses silence, it usually means they've already accepted something they didn't want to. I remember someone saying, he looks like he already lost something important. And for the first time, I realized this wasn't just about me or her. This was about him too, about trust, about loyalty, about something much bigger than a mistake between two people. And suddenly, everything felt heavier, because it wasn't just a secret anymore. It was damage, real damage. The kind that doesn't just disappear with time. I started seeing more clips, more analysis, people trying to read his expressions, trying to decode his silence. But they were all missing one thing: they didn't feel it. They didn't understand what that kind of silence means. Because I did. I knew exactly what it meant to sit there and realize something you believed in wasn't what you thought it was. That's not anger. That's something deeper, something quieter, something that stays with you longer. I kept asking myself, did they know? Did they suspect it before everything came out? Because sometimes people do. Sometimes they feel the distance, the change, the shift in energy, but they choose not to see it. Not because they're blind, but because they don't want it to be true. And maybe that's what hurts the most. Not the truth itself, but the moment you realize it was there all along. I heard that things changed after that, not publicly, not in a way the world could fully see, but privately. And honestly, that's where it matters most. Because the real damage isn't what people talk about online, it's what happens behind closed doors. The conversations no one hears, the silent say no one records, the moments where everything feels different. I thought about reaching out more than once, not to fix anything because I knew I couldn't, but just to say something, anything, an apology, an explanation, but I didn't. Because what could I possibly say? There are some situations where words don't help, they just make things worse. And this was one of them. So I stayed quiet again and watched everything unfold from a distance. People kept building narratives. Some blamed her, some blamed me, some even blamed him. But the truth is, blame doesn't change anything. It doesn't undo choices. It doesn't repair trust. It just gives people something to talk about. And maybe that's why he didn't say much. Because he understood that better than anyone. There was one moment though One clip I couldn't forget. Someone asked him a question, not directly about this, but close enough, and he paused just for a second before answering. But in that second, you could see it. Not clearly, not dramatically, but enough. A small crack in someone who usually looks unbreakable. And that's when it finally settled in for me. This wasn't just a story, it wasn't just something people would forget in a few weeks. This was something real, something that left a mark on all of us in different ways. I stopped trying to follow updates after that, stopped watching clips, stopped reading comments, because at some point you realize you don't need more information. You already understand the outcome. And the outcome was simple. We all lost something in different ways. She lost peace, I lost clarity, and he lost something that's much harder to replace: trust. And the worst part about trust is once it breaks, it never comes back the same. Even if things look normal again, even if life moves on, there's always something missing, something slightly off, something you can't ignore no matter how hard you try. I don't know what happened after that. Not really. And maybe that's for the best, because some stories don't need a full ending. They just stop, leaving you with the very thing you didn't expect to feel. If there's one thing I've learned watching all of this unfold, it's that actions don't just affect the moment. They echo through people, through time, through lives you didn't even think about when you made that choice. And sometimes the people who get hurt the most are the ones one never saw it coming. I don't expect forgiveness, not from him, not from anyone, because some things aren't meant to be forgiven. They are just meant to be remembered as a reminder of what happens when you ignore the line and convince yourself it doesn't exist. But it does. It always does. And crossing it always comes with a price. I thought the worst part was already over. I was wrong. Because the truth is, the aftermath is always heavier than the moment itself. When everything first came out, it felt like chaos, noise, too many voices saying too many things at once. But after some time, the noise fades, and what's left behind is something much harder to deal with: silence, not the peaceful kind, the kind that forces you to sit with everything you've done. I started noticing how people looked at me differently, even the ones who didn't say anything, even the ones who pretended nothing had changed. You can feel it, that shift, that invisible distance. And it makes you realize something. Reputation isn't just about what people know, it's about what they believe. And once people start believing something about you, it sticks. I stopped trying to explain myself, not because I didn't have things to say, but because I knew it wouldn't matter. No explanation sounds right when the outcome is already wrong. And honestly, I didn't deserve to sound right. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and life kept moving, at least on the outside. But internally, it felt stuck, like a moment that refused to pass. I'd wake up, go through the day, talk to people, but there was always something in the back of my mind, a constant reminder of everything. Sometimes it hit me at random moments, a place, a song, a memory, and suddenly I'd be right back there, back in those conversations, back in those choices, back in that moment where I could have stopped everything, but didn't. I heard updates about him again, not directly, just small things, that he was focusing more on work, keeping things private, avoiding unnecessary attention, which honestly made sense. When something personal becomes public, you learn very quickly what to protect next. And I respected that. From a distance, without interfering, without trying to insert myself into something I already damaged. As for her, there was nothing, no messages, no calls, no signs. And at first, that felt strange. Then it started feeling right. Because some people aren't meant to stay in your life after certain things happen. Not because you don't care anymore, but because staying would only reopen something that should remain closed. I think about the version of myself before all this sometimes, the one who believed lines were clear, that right and wrong were obvious, that you'd always know when you're about to make a mistake. But it doesn't work like that. Mistakes don't announce themselves. They feel normal while you're making them. They feel justified, understandable, even harmless, until they're not. And by then, it's already too late. I stopped blaming circumstances, stopped blaming timing, stopped blaming emotions, because at the end of the day, it was a choice, multiple choices, and every single one of them led here. That's the part people don't like to accept. That it's not just one moment, it's a series of small decisions that slowly take you somewhere you never planned to go. If I had ignored that first message, if I had kept things distant, if I had walked away earlier, none of this would exist. But I didn't, and now it does. There's no dramatic ending to this, no big twist, no sudden resolution, just acceptance. The kind that doesn't come quickly, but eventually settles in. I don't check the news anymore. Don't look for updates. Don't try to see what people are saying, because it doesn't change anything. What happened, happened, and the people involved have to live with it in their own ways. I've learned to sit with the discomfort, not run from it, not distract myself from it, just face it. Because maybe that's part of the consequence too. Not just what others see, but what you feel when everything goes quiet. If someone asks me what I learned from all of this, I don't give a simple answer, because it's not simple. But if I had to say one thing, it would be this. Be careful with moments that feel too easy, too natural, too perfect, because sometimes those are the ones that cost you the most.